You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. Unlike some guys, Tasty Trade puts traders first. Maybe you're the type to hunker down on your desktop for hours. Maybe you breeze by on your browser. Or maybe you just need that top-rated app right by your side. However you do it, Tasty Trade's got the advanced tools you need to tackle stocks, options, futures, and more, all in one place. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. See opportunity differently with interactive curve analysis. Use backtesting to learn from the past and plan for the future. The platform is only the beginning of better trading. You'll also find low pricing, lots of education, and backup from a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. Time to rock out on Volatility Views one more time for the final full trading week of 2025, which is wild. We still have more shows to come this year. Don't worry, listeners. We're not done yet. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the optionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are binging and mainlining, coming at you a little bit early this week. So if you're hanging out in the pro, you get vol views a little bit earlier in your ear holes, which is just a bonus. Of course, you're listening on demand. It'll be coming at you around the same bat time, same bat channel. Reminder, if you're not listening to the full network, make sure you're doing so. I mean, it's been running, coming up in January, it'll be 19 years. Wild. Make sure you got it added into your rotation. Thanks to all of you who have been sending in your Spotify and Apple rotations, showing us at the top of the list. We love you all out there. We literally couldn't do it without you. So thanks to all of you who have tuned in throughout the year. And of course, if you haven't been part of the pro yet, you want to join us for the official after party of Volatility Views, known as Options Oddities, then the clock is ticking on getting in there before the end of this year. If you do so before the end of the year, you can get your name in the hat for the final pro trading crate of 2025. They're all bangers. The end of the year one's always a banger as well. Make sure you get your name in the hat to get a piece of that action. And speaking of getting a piece, we always love to get a piece of the once, future, and present Dr. VIX, aka Mr. Russell Rhoads. Mr. Rhoads, welcome back to Volatility Views on this new earlier hour, sir. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I haven't been messing around trying to figure out what I was going to do till noon, till I started the program. It snuck up on me. I'm all hyped and I'm ready to go. And you're the only one that can see it. But look behind me, Mark. Look behind me.
Oh, you've
There's
changed.
nothing there.
Have you changed domiciles, or is it just you got rid of everything?
No, I've just everything in my office except for this computer is now locked up, is boxed up.
Ah, the joys of moving.
Boxed up. It's moving over the holidays. I've given up on accomplishing anything other than putting things in boxes.
I do not envy you.
God knows
that
if
task.
I'm not, I'm hearing about it.
Yes, moving the joy of everyone's lives. So enjoy that. You have multiple moves happening right now, so you're a very lucky fellow. I'm surprised you have any patience left to join us as we keep on rolling and head on into a little bit of the old Volatility Review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Volatility Review, listeners, the penultimate Volatility Review for 2025. Let's get down to business out here. Apparently, Uncle Mike has been busy since I talked to him yesterday because after a lot of red on the market screens for the better part of the last week and change, we're seeing a pretty optimistic end to the final full trading week of 2025, listeners. Apparently some reduced CPI numbers, even though there's a lot of people looking askance at that number, even the Fed themselves saying, well, it's probably a little bit skewed by what was going on with the lockdown or shutdown, I should say, and everything else going on in November. So maybe look more towards the December numbers, which we obviously don't have yet. But nonetheless, the market rallied off that. The market rallied off Micron earnings. It's hard to keep track, listeners. Is the AI trade on or off again? Apparently, it's on again today because folks are buying AI names again. The S&P is up about 0.8% right now. Dow up about 0.6%. NASDAQ up a little over 1, nearly 1.1%. So gaining back a lot of what they lost from earlier in the week. Our old pal, VIX Cash, Mr. Rhoads, they are starting to, I think, finally remember that, it is December because they are taking it to the woodshed yet again as we kicked off the show at about a 1535 in the VIX Cash, listeners. That's down almost a full point, about 0.9 point from where it was this time last week. So if you were waiting for a little bit of belated vol drubbing, I would say better late than never, but unfortunately for all you who were camped out on downside in VIX land, in these options kind of came a little bit too late for you, which kind of goes back to what we were saying last week. And even on the option block on Monday, that if you have VIX puts these days, you kind of have to monetize at least a portion of them a little bit more aggressively than perhaps you would have in the past. If you're hanging out in January, then you're all right, or at least in a VIX December expiration beyond the regular expiration, then perhaps you're looking okay out there as well, because 1535, right back down, listeners. Volley at 12.5. That puts it down about 1/3 point from where it was this time last week. Look forward, if you're not in the pro, yet another reason. Forthcoming Vol Deathmatch 2.0 with Mr. Scott Nations, the creator of Volley, as well as the Flowmaster. 2 men enter. Only one will leave, listeners. Who will emerge victorious from the Vol Deathmatch 2.0? Yet another reason why you should be hanging out in the pro. And our old pal VVIX getting back below the par, getting back below the 90 handle at an 87 right now, down 12 points from where it was on the show this time last week. So Mr. Rhoads, I don't know if you got the memo, but apparently, at least for today, at least for this early half of the session, the AI trade is back on and everyone is back buying the market and killing vol, sir. What say you?
Well, what I want to first off, the Vol Deathmatch. When is that? I got to make sure I put it on my calendar. I want to attend.
We have not announced the date yet, so we will let you know when it is official.
And then is this like the old school NCAA tournament? Am I going to have like a third place game against whoever loses?
No.
Okay.
You are dead in the world of Vol Deathmatch.
I am dead in the world of death matches. So, all right, I'll go back to my claymation.
Spoiler alert for Vol Deathmatch 1.0, listeners.
Remember the end of one of the Rocky movies where they got in the ring because Apollo Creed was really not particularly happy with the outcome. He goes, he only got beat by a second. Even a man of his intellect that grinds at him. Yeah, that's how I feel about the volatility death match.
Wow, you got enough beverage there, sir? That's an impressive. You're part of the Buc-ee's contingent.
I'm drinking a 64-ounce Buc-ee's coffee.
Man.
It's the only glass I have left in my house for the next week.
For those of you not seeing him right now, listeners, Russell is drinking from a cup that is roughly 3x the size of his head. So
it's the size of my head. Yeah, they stopped selling them because truckers would use them for bathrooms and getting wrecks.
Oh,
that's how big it is.
That's
all right. Let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about. So I'm gonna get. Usually you're getting us back on track. I'll get us back on track. So you mentioned the CPI, and we got a slew of economic numbers this week. Last week, I got to see one of the Fed presidents talk about what he was looking for. And one of the things he said was that they maybe expected some of the work that they were doing to start to show up in the first quarter. Maybe it's showing up earlier. I don't know. I don't trust the numbers worth a damn right now. I've used this analogy in a couple of places. One of my daughters is in meteorology. And part of the budget cuts have taken one weather. We used to get 2 weather balloons a day, and now we get 1. And there has been less accuracy in the weather predictions. You can't tell me that the economic numbers, as we get back on track with collecting the data, et cetera, that there's just not some uncertainty there. So
no, budget cuts and mass firings of people whom they give you data you don't want will tend to have an effect on the outcome, I would think.
That'll do it. That's when you don't, when the boss doesn't hear the truth, then things fall apart pretty quickly. That is for darn sure. But yeah, and also at the event that I got to go to last week, a really smart guy on a panel said it almost feels like the best way to trade the economic numbers is to try to figure out where the economic numbers are wrong. And the market's lack of reaction to that light CPI makes me think the market doesn't believe it. The interest rate probability hardly budged. In fact, we went from 2.1 hikes next year to 2.4. So it actually budged up just a little bit. We continue to stick around 2 hikes according to the markets, 1 hike according to the Fed next year. I have a funny feeling those numbers will be adjusted or confirmed again, probably in the first couple of months of next year. And you're seeing, we're not at the curve yet. We'll talk about the curve, but you're seeing elevated futures prices versus the spot going into the first quarter of next year. I think that is the anticipation that we're not quite out of the woods right now. On the other side of it, VIX is where it should be when you're really close to new highs, at least below 16 or at least trending in the right direction. I did something on Monday this week, and I was just asked about the elevated VIX level, and I started doing some historical comparisons to VIX's behavior in December. December 2017, VIX maintained relatively high levels relative to what you would expect. And VIX actually trended higher with the S&P 500 over the first 5 weeks of 2018, and we got Volmageddon. That's how things looked on Monday. But just like this show, everything changes pretty darn quickly. Right now, I feel like VIX is indicating it's either reacting to the seasonality of this being the last full week, or it's actually changing its attitude about the overall markets. So I'm not really, time will definitely tell on that one. I love your comment about monetizing VIX puts. The spikes down are just as funky as the spikes up these days. And going through the tape, I know I'm supposed to be looking at weeklies, but you do see some put exits whenever we have a weekday. I haven't really looked through today, but I will as you talk. And I'll bet you we're seeing some people that are monetizing some of those 15 strike puts, even though they're not in the money quite yet, or maybe even the 14 and a halves. The AI trade, I think the AI trade is just going to be off and on until some reality starts to set into it. You did have one of the AI CEOs, and I can't remember which one it was, make a comment recently that they were going to grow into their valuation, but the valuation wasn't justified right now. But it wasn't a bubble. Said all three things at once. And then finally, with the AI thing, I watched Ken Griffin speak online. He was at a conference in Paris, and he had been around at a round table with some CEOs, and they went around and talked about how technology was going to help their businesses, and not a single person mentioned AI. Now, they were really large blue chip company CEOs, but still, not a single one mentioned AI. So I'm still waiting for my how are we going to make all this money from AI argument from somebody.
Interesting. And of course, for the trading world, you might want a little bit of edge. I'm not sure if the AI, at least for right now, gives you that edge, but a conversation for another day. So you mentioned the D's 15 puts, are much beloved D's 15 puts, sir, and maybe we need to have an in memoriam. Like they have on the Oscars for everyone we lost. We can have an in memoriam segment for all the money that went to die on the 15 strike in VIX this year on the put side, because it was a lot. Maybe that might be a fun job for an intern out there, is exactly how much money did they ride to oblivion. And it was most of the year, listeners, just about every month this year. Certainly in the latter half of this year, we saw a ton of positioning around that 15 strike, August and beyond, definitely. So it's been a lot of money. And if you watch that OI, it didn't really, when we flirted with some of those levels in the cash, obviously never really got there in the futures, but when we flirted with some of that in the cash, it seemed like things might be tilting their way. You didn't see a lot of monetizing, or at least closing on that strike. So that's definitely one that I might want to, when we look back on the trends and trades that stood out to us in 2025, that is definitely one that leaps off the board to me. Speaking of going off the board, I guess it's official now, Mr. Rhoads. 2025 is officially over because December has rolled off the board for VIX. We no longer have any 2025 positions to discuss. So I guess we should just end the show now. It's all Jan and beyond, sir. What say?
Well, there are December positions. We've got a December 24th and a December 31st expiration.
I'm looking at the futures.
I know you're talking about the futures, and we definitely have the goofiness that was the Fed last announcement before December expiration. Usually there is a meeting in December, but I think it's like the afternoon of expiration more often than not. But as I mentioned, now that 2025 is behind us, you can start to look into 2026, and you've got the January future at a $2.25 premium relative to spot. If I do my cool thing that I can do on Bloomberg and go back to the curve a year ago, it was, I'm not 100% sure where the spot was, but it was not nearly as much. It looks like it was more like $1.50 or so, I believe. But maybe not even that much going into January. But the whole point is we're a lot steeper going into next year right now than we were last year. And you would have expected that we would have been a lot, I don't know, maybe not as steep this year relative to last year, just because, we were getting ready to take on a new president for the second time around. And I think there was some uncertainty that was going along with that. So, yeah, that's 2025 is behind us, which means we're all looking forward to 2026. And I always want to take a look at what the futures curve is telling us. And the futures curve is telling us that there are some concerns going into early 2026. One last thing I want to do, since I mentioned 2017, I want to see if I can make this thing change real quick and look what the curve looked like in 2017. I know we were starting to get all those goofy calls about what's wrong with VIX. Why won't it go down? Well, it was it was in the low teens at this time last year. So no wonder it wasn't going down anymore. But in this time, it's actually not going down, or like holding a nice 15 level, regardless of whether we make a new high or not. And again, that's got me very concerned going into 2026.
People forget how volatile the start of the year is. That's a point I've made a number of times over the past few years. January kind of comes in like a lion frequently. Everyone thinks about 2020, of course, and what happened in February and beyond. But January came in and we took out an Iranian general on the tarmac. That certainly gave vol a nice kick in the teeth to start the year. And we have had other shocks to the system like that, not on top of which, of course, inaugurations and all sorts of other dust-ups. January 6th, the year later, comes to mind. So a lot of things have happened in January that have set us on an interesting road for vol for the rest of the year. So January, once the sleepy time of the vol calendar, kind of coming off the holidays, you're kind of gorged, you're kind of sated, things are kind of quiet. These days, January comes in kind of hot. Speaking of coming in hot, the futures curve is coming in hot to the downside. Listeners, as you might imagine, a lot of juice coming off the board here, including Dees. Dees is gone now, so now we have no more 2025 positions to look at on the term structure, listeners. So 2025 is officially over when Dees rolls off the board, listeners. As Russell was alluding to, though, still a decent premium between the cash and that front Jan future. When we kicked off the show, it was right around almost 2.4 points out there. That front Jan future was at about a 1770. That puts it down a little over a point, about 1.05 points to be precise, from where it was this time last week. The Feb future slotting into that number 2 position there, down almost 3/4 of a point from where it was this time last week. And looking at the far out picture, let's go all the way out to the dog days of summer next year in August. That's coming in exactly half a point from where we were this time last week. It was at exactly a 22 on the show last week, exactly 21 and a half right now. Mr. Rhoads, you kind of mentioned you thought there was a little bit of some steepness to this term structure right now, maybe surprisingly so, given the fact that we're heading into Jan. Anything else catching your eye out there in the term structure? And did you find the data you were looking for, sir?
Well, yeah, February and March at pretty significant premiums to January is pretty surprising as well. Normally, when you look at the curve in mid-December and looking out to the next year, once we've gotten December expiration behind us, you got a bit of a bump, which is understandable going into the new year. But then there's some flatness there. February at 19.25, and I've got slightly delayed quotes because I'm working in a skeleton office. But at 19.25 versus 1765 on the January contract, that's a pretty big premium. Last year, I think they were basically in line with each other, which is more of what you would expect. Just a lot of weird concern coming out. Yeah, last year, January was at 18.25, February was at 1860 at this time. So you gotta, and March was at 1872. Right now, February and March are at pretty significant premiums relative to where we are right now, where the January contract is right now. Yeah, in fact, March is at a $2.10 premium relative to January. And then we start to flatten off into the summer. But even steep, just looking at going into the year, lots of concern going into the year. But I'm the doggy downer on this show, so I'm always kind of bearish, admittedly.
Let's see if the flow out there today is bearish or if it's lighting up the tape. We've been stubbornly persistent on the VIX volume front. I've been saying for a while, when VIX can maintain an ADV of 1 million contracts a day, especially this time of year, it's not quite as shocking or surprising when it's September, October. But when it's December, the time of the year when VIX usually goes home for the holidays and doesn't come back for a little bit, that's doubly surprising and impressive. And again, still hanging out pretty much right about that, 983,000 contracts. It just dipped below 1 million contracts a day, down about 20,000 from this time last week. But still, this time of year, we usually expect 600,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So that is a substantial amount of volume still going up out there in VIX land. Is it going up today? Well, we'll find out in a second. Let's go out first to our top size positions in VIX land. What is open for size now that December has rolled off the board? Well, December going the way of the dodo took a lot of puts with it, not just the D's 15 puts, 15 half puts, 16, 17, 18. You get the picture, listeners. As a result, we are back now to 8-2 calls over puts out there, a more, dare I say it, normal structure for the VIX top 10. Now, let's go look. Let's see what's open for size and what remains. Only cost you 136,000 contracts to break into the top 10 right now. That looks like a post-December expiration number to me. That's kind of light. That gets you to our old pal. We're kicking things off with a bang. We're not messing around. We're not talking Jan 20s or, 18 puts, anything like that. Nope, straight out of the barrel, 136,000 of the March 50s, the 50s. So here we go. Kicking it off with fun. Number 9, 138,000 of the comparatively normal Jan 23s. Number 8, right back to the fun, listeners, 144,000 of the Jan pars, the Jan 100 calls. I'll have to go see if I dig up a price for those bad boys for you. What's a par call going for these days in January? Number 7, 147,000 of the Jan 21 calls. Now, that's the kind of stuff you would expect, but no, we got 50s and the pars going up right here. And then number 6, right back to the fun, 150,000 exactly of the Jan 70s. So, man, we are all over the place in the bottom half of the top 10. Let's see what surprises are in store for us on the top half. Number 5. Here we go. We found one of the Waldos, the first of 2 puts, 152,000 of the Jan 16 puts. Number 4, 166,000 of the Jan 60s. So right back to the fun, listeners. Number 3, 188,000 of the Feb 47 halves. There's been a lot of action on the 47 half strike over this past year as well, and a lot of aggressive rolling of those positions as well. Maybe there'll be some analysis of those in our 2025 look back as well. Number 2, 223,000 of the Feb 35s, and the number 1 size position in VIX land right now, listeners, maybe a little bit surprising, 269,000 of the Jan 17 puts. It's been a while since we've had a put taking the top spot in our top 10 list out here, listeners. So Jan 17 puts, a fairly meaty puts. Those are looking pretty decent right now, I'd have to go out on a limb and say. But if the old adage holds true, if you're getting a nice little pop on those today, maybe you take at least some of those off the table. As we take the show perhaps off the rails, it is time for Russell's Weekly Rundown.
Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown.
All right, Mr. Rhoads, the floor is yours as you drink from your ludicrously large Buc-ee's beverage, and hopefully don't go to the bathroom with it. What is going on in the VIX Weekly Options, sir?
Yeah, ever since you turned the camera on, man, I can't go to the bathroom in my Buc-ee's cup.
There's no hiding anymore, sir.
I just can't do that. I was trying to look something up while you were talking, but I couldn't find it. All right, so let's see, Monday, with VIX at 1672. And keep in mind, this was a standard expiration week, so it was somewhat busier than last week for weeklies, but with December 24th and December 31st being pseudo holidays, not a whole lot going on in the weeklies, and people don't really seem to be doing much in the January ones. But on Monday, VIX at 1672, somebody sold 100 of the December 24th 17 calls, took in $1.10. They bought the 18 calls for 82 cents, took in a 28-cent credit. You got to kind of like that trade. You got to assume that VIX settlement probably won't be all that high the day before, a holiday, but you never know. I think it's but a pretty smart trade there. And then with VIX at 1693, people have gotten so frustrated with the 15 puts, they've moved down to the 14.5 puts. Somebody bought 300 of the December 31st 14.5 puts for 6 cents.
Those people obviously do not listen to the show. We need to reach out to them.
If the 15s aren't going to work, the 14.5s might.
That's the math, I think.
Or if we blow through 15, oh my God, next stop's 12. There.
Those 14.5 puts. If those 14.5 puts pay, that will be very interesting.
So, all right. And now we've got, we had 50 cent, et cetera. You were talking about it's kind of fun. And we had the VIX whale and the 1x2 whale, and we've had traders that we identified by characteristics around their trades. I'm seeing a bunch of 19,900, I'm sorry, 1999 lots, or 1999. So I'm going to say that the trader formerly known as Prince on Tuesday with VIX at 1678 sold 1,999 of the December 24th 18 calls for 83 cents. Later in the day, with VIX at lower levels, VIX down to 1619, somebody sold 1,999 of the December 24th 16 puts for 45 cents. Both of these were opening trades because the open interest was very small compared to both of these. So the trader, the VIX trader formerly known as Prince. There's more 1999s coming. VIX on Wednesday, VIX at 1749. Somebody bought 5,000 of the December 31st 20 calls at 99 cents. Sold 2,500 of the 25 calls for 48 cents. They paid $1.50 for this 1x2 that just perplexes me. So, got to get up to 21 and a half, up around 25. You're hitting your maximum profit. I don't think it was an exit. That was the other thing. I think the 25 calls might not have had the open interest there. So then an entry trade, I just feel like if you feel like VIX is going to run up to 21 and, to 25 or so, there are probably better ways to go about doing this. So there. Third, like maybe selling a call spread, or I'm sorry, selling a put spread and buying a call where your maximum loss is not particularly $1.50 if we're not above 20.
Yeah, that's funky. We don't usually see the ratios that way. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just a funky trade that I don't like.
That could be another theme we have for VIX in 2025. Poor capital efficiency, sir.
I mean, if anything, I would have bought 2,500 of the 20 calls and sold 5,000 of the 25 calls. There'd have been no cost there. If I got my spike up, it would have been a little bit different, but I don't know. So on Thursday, VIX at 1684, somebody bought 3,000 of the December 24th 35 calls. I don't think they're feeling very good about that right now. Paid 7 cents for them. And Prince is back on Thursday with VIX at 1638. Somebody sold 1,999 of the December 31st 15 puts for 7 cents. The open interest on that was 763. So again, I think they most likely are opening. That's an opening trade. Didn't see it paired up with anything else though. So maybe they were been trying to leg into short strangles, which I don't have a huge problem with if you've got a good handle on your market. Today, with VIX at 1532, somebody sold 300 of the January 14th 18 calls for $1.40. VIX went up a little bit more. They went up to 1544. So somebody sold 300 of the January 14th 18 calls for $1.45. Again, those are opening. The open interest is only around 200. So they're expecting VIX to remain at relatively calm levels into early next year. Definitely not agreeing with what the futures market is thinking is going to happen. And then finally, and this is anything but a weekly trade. If you listen to the program, you have heard us talk about back in mid-July in two different lots.
Has it been that long? Has it been since mid-July? Wow.
Yeah, it was July 8th and July 12th.
Wow.
They did it. They did, and it came to a 250 lot. They did about $1.25 on each of them. So the big VIX, long the DEES 200 puts, short the DEES 20 puts has come to a close. The entry again was in mid, kind of early to mid July. The net price on on buying 250 of the VIX DEES 200 puts was 175.54, and then they sold 250 of the DEES 20 puts for 264. The net cost is 172.90. The net profit or the net maximum value on this thing is 180, which gives you a value of payoff of $7.10 on a cost of $172.90. Settlement was 16. We are certain that they kept the long 200 puts on. We don't know if they got out of the short 20 puts at some point. It's just too difficult with as active as that option is. But assuming that they left the short 20 put on, or they didn't cover the short 20 put at more than $3.99, they made at least 710 on this. That's a profit of 4.11% if this cost them 172.90. I'm assuming they got to use some margin. Just for context, if they had put all that money into the S&P 500, they'd be up 18%. If they had just purchased SVIX, they would be up just over 5% over the same time frame. So, we weren't big fans of the trade. It is possible that they did better, that at some point they got out of those short 20 puts. There were lots of opportunities to do it, but did not see an exit on the long 200 puts. So I'm pretty confident in my assumption that they made at least 710 off of it. Probably did better, but made at least 710 off of it.
Yeah, it's been our contention since we saw this go up, which is wild that it was July. I was thinking it was more September, October timeframe, but July, man, it's been around for a bit.
Yeah.
Even if you had this outlook, there are so many other ways you could have expressed this and made similar amounts and similar, certainly percentage returns without committing and tying up and risking such a substantial amount of capital.
Volatility event?
Yeah,
we
that's
had a
all
volatility
gone.
event last week, and we've had a 60 settlement. This thing they could have easily lost 30 or 40 points on.
Yes, it's absurd that they would think of that way. Like I said, SVIX, that's an easy way to get it done. I mean, SVIX can theoretically go to zero, of course, but you have some backstops in place. You can backstop it yourself as well if you want, with options or something else along those lines. Again, there's a lot of different ways, less meaty VIX puts. There's a lot of ways to go about this. Just this one boggles the mind. Someone sat down, someone ran a model. Maybe the AI spit it out to them back in July, Russell, and said, what is an efficient use of your capital for the second half of 2025, tying up all of it or a good chunk of it in this ridiculously meaty put spread that, if it works out, can make you $7-8, and if it doesn't, could cost you 30-40 handles easily, if not more. It's a wild risk reward on this thing to me too, and on top of the lack of capital efficiency, it's just absolutely wild stuff. But again, that's why we do the show, Mr. Rhoads, for the wild stuff, for the crazy stuff. Is it wild and crazy out there in VIX land today? At the end of our final full trading week, I should say, of the year, the penultimate vol views of 2025, the answer was no, Mr. Rhoads. Starting to pick up. Looks like business is picking up. About 100,000 contracts have popped off since we started talking on the show. It was hanging out right around 300,000, now pretty close to 400,000, 393,000. I went while you were talking to see what are folks up to out there, and it looks like the Jan 2035 call spread just popped off for regular 21st expirations or regular expiration listeners. 68 cents. Looks like paper's buying that bad boy out there. So looks like there is OI on that strike, so they could be closing on this one, but kind of interesting. So a little bit of VIX upside. So that now takes our top spot. In fact, actually, it's been 42,000 of the 20s have now changed hands today against 30,000 of the Jan 35. So maybe they're doing a funky ratio out there. Either way, number one with a bullet today, 42,000 of the Jan 20s. If you're wondering, average price for those bad boys, about $1.04. Number two, 30,000 of the Jan 35s. Number three, 28,000 of the March 60s going up out there. Number four, 26,000 of the Jan double. So we got all sorts of weird, wild, and wonderful prints going up out there today, listeners. If you're wondering what's the Jan double go for, about 16 cents. And then number five, almost 21,000 of the Jan 23 calls. We asked you folks, just out of curiosity, this just went up, so this just went live a few minutes ago. We said Jan 2035 call spread, 68 cents, potentially closing. Are you a fan of that bad boy, buying it? Or is it kind of Right now, Russell, 100% of the early voters, they want to buy that bad boy. Does that float your boat, sir? Jan 2035 for 68 cents?
I would buy it before I'd sell it. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying.
I feel like I would buy it thinking that I can get out of it at some point, not to hold it to expiration, but get a run into the low 20s and get out of that and flip out of it by selling it and flip out of, or if I bought it, get out of that long call and maybe even leave the short call on and buy a 100 strike call to leave that one on too.
It shows you. Yes, the old pars. We have to dig up a price.
I don't know about that.
We have to dig up a price for the pars. I promise that to the listeners later today. Listeners, and just shows you how much the show has evolved just since we started. When we started the show, the hot option today in VIX land was the March 23s, going up 21,000 times for $2.15. That is now number 5 in our top 5. So interesting. Other things have superseded it, which is interesting. We thought, hey, a weird top trade today, but does that one float your boat? And right now, 100% of you folks want to sell those for $2.15. So there you go. Selling those and potentially buying the Jan vertical. That's what you folks are up to out there. What were we up to yesterday in VIX land? We started out of the gate pretty hot. By the time we got to the option block with the Flowmaster, we were already in the ballpark of 500,000 contracts. It seemed like we were on pace to hit the 1 million contract ADV, but I did caution you. We have seen this a number of times now on the hot options report lately, where the first half of the session's a banger, things are wild, we're lighting up the tape. Second half of the session doesn't quite live up, and that's what happened yesterday. We ended up going out in VIX, only 694,000 contracts, so VIX kind of fell asleep for the second half of the session, which is kind of interesting. That said, the hot option out there yesterday, 112,000 of the Jan 21s. This was a funky one. We also have 101,000 for number 2 of the Jan 21 halves. So we were kind of debating whether they were trying to do it on splits or whether they just really loved a very tight half-point vertical 100,000+ times. Either way, they were both opening as well, so it wasn't even a roll, even though who's going to roll for half a strike, but we have seen weirder things. We put it out to you folks. So are you down for those Jan 21s for $1.25? And 70% of you right now want to sell those. Only 30% want to buy them. I get it. It's kind of a weird strike. Number 3, 32,000 of the Jan 18 half puts. Number 4, 31,000 of the Jan 18 half calls. Those were openings. Maybe we got a straddle or perhaps a synthetic going up there. Number 5, 23,000 of the Jan 20s on a surprisingly light Thursday. Wednesday, about the same volume level, 677,000. These are starting to be the numbers we expect for the end of the year here. Wednesday, again, 677 on the tape. The hot option on Wednesday, listeners, 64, almost 65,000 of the Jan 15 half puts. Average price for these about 32 cents, listeners. So there you go. Number 2, 58,000 of the Jan 16 puts. Number 3, 48,000 of the Jan 16 half puts. Number 4, 23,000 of the Jan 19 puts. So a lot of Jan coming online on Wednesday. Go figure how that works. And number 5, 22,000 of the, got to have one of these, the March 70s. If you're wondering what are those going for, exactly 50 cents. So there you go, listeners. You got 50 cents burning a hole in your pocket. You too can buy the March 70s in VIX. Tuesday, the banger day, not a surprise. The last day for trading DEES options and VIX. About 1.25 million contracts out there. So that's really helping to maintain the ADV right now. The hot option on a hot day, 116,000 of the Jan 80s. Number 2, 76,000 of the Feb 80s. Now, before you say that was a roll, they were both opening. So size opening looks like a bit of a ratio. Obviously, 116,000 versus 76,000, so 40 more. Are they doing kind of the reverse calendar? I don't know. It's a funky one. Number 3, 55,000 of the DEES 18 puts. Number 4, 52,000 of the DEES 17 puts. And number 5, 48,000 of the DEES 18 calls. Monday, kind of light, given the fact that we were heading into expiration the following day. 677,000 contracts on the tape. Monday, the hot option on Monday, listeners, 80,000. Oh, of our old pal, the DEES 15 puts. So maybe someone did attempt to finally close 80,000 of these bad boys. If you're wondering, what did they get for them? Well, you can probably guess, not much. A whopping 3 cents. So once again, listeners, a lot of juice going to die on the 15 pushback. Number 2, 52,000 of the Feb 35s. Number 3, 50,000 of the Dees 18s. Number 4, 43,000 of the D16 puts. And number 5, 37, almost 38,000 of the Dees 15 half puts. By the way, we mentioned that we did a poll with you folks on the option block on Monday. We said our old pals, the Dees 15 puts, lighting it up again. At the time, it was for 4 cents. We said, do these even have a chance, or are you moving on? And 76% said, sold to you, no chance. That was indeed the right choice. 24% actually wanted to buy them. You folks have not been paying attention. And speaking of paying attention, really quickly, before we roll on out of VIX land, Mr. Rhoads, you made an interesting point earlier before the show here. You've been talking, obviously we talked about V stocks earlier this week on the European market brief. You're saying you're not seeing the commensurate move in V stocks right now that you're seeing in VIX. So this is very much a localized U.S. phenomenon, sir?
Yeah, most definitely. And this has been something that's kind of been in place for almost all of 2025. We did the European program earlier this week, and I noted that V stocks is typically at a premium to VIX about 80% of trading days. It was closer to 55% this year, and it's just because of the amount of U.S. specific risk that people see pricing into the market. Spot VIX a little bit lower than V stocks right now, but when you take a look at the V stocks term structure, it's really flat going out into next year versus what it looks like for VIX. So you can when Brexit was coming up, and I know it's a long time ago, but it's just a good it's a good example that a lot of people can remember. You could see a difference in the European term structure versus the U.S. term structure. So it's kind of fun to be able to pick up on what are the markets concerned about. And right now, Europe, they're not hanging their hat on any rate cuts in 2026. And they just had a meeting yesterday. And right now it looks like that's not what they need to keep their economy going. And if you don't need any help, you're probably expecting a bit lower volatility. So yeah, V stocks is not indicating the same thing that VIX is indicating. Can I just throw something out there about the 200 puts?
No, you may not. We are done with that.
Okay, because
fine.
they've been they're doing it for every expiration. It's not just I found them in January and I found them in February.
Oh, they're back.
Talk about it. We'll talk about it next week. It'll probably be kind of a quiet week, and I'll do some work on it, and we'll talk because it's a holiday-ish week. It'll give me something really good to talk about.
Well, they made a few bucks, so why wouldn't you want to repeat it in January and February and every other trading month? Either that or we here on the show through our mockery have inspired copycats, sir. One way or the other.
I think we've inspired copycats. I think people have figured out that the guy that never even wrote a model and can't win the crystal ball, we should just do opposite of what he says on this program.
There you go, listeners. If you're the ones out there slinging these Jan or Feb or whatever 200 puts, I don't know, maybe listen to the show a little bit. But hey, it worked out for you, so who are we to second guess you? Speaking of getting short vol, ways to play short vol, a lot of you like to do that with SVIX. Looking pretty good today with this latest squeeze on the old VIX. SVIX 2285 right now, up about a point from where it was this time last week. So getting that last little point out there on SVIX before the end of the year, putting up 6,500 contracts, which is decent paper out there, all things considered. And our old pal UVIX at about a 6.5, down about 2/3 of a point, putting up 39,000 contracts out there. Mr. Rhoads, A, what are your thoughts on SVIX? B, are you doing your secret, not that secret anymore because we did let the cat out of the bag, weekend UVIX trade? And I did see something from our pro. I don't see him in there now, but he did ask us earlier this week, and I wanted to make sure we got it to you. He had a question about the logistics, the specifics, the details of your secret weekend UVIX trade. He wanted to know, I think he had somewhere in the ballpark of 1,000 shares of SVIX, and he wanted to know, because UVIX is leveraged, should he just do 2x UVIX? So 3 questions, sir. Have at it.
I match them dollar for dollar.
Okay.
I match them for dollar for dollar. And that means that I'm giving up a little bit of the SVIX performance when the UVIX doesn't work. But I've been matching them up dollar for dollar. I've tried a couple of other things, and it's you get slight improvements, et cetera, but nothing dramatic. Let's put it this way: if SVIX is at 20 and you own 1,000 shares, and UVIX is at 10, you're going to do 2,000 shares of UVIX because that ends up coming to the same.
And speaking of which, are you still slinging? I mean, you're pretty much out of SVIX, I believe. So are you still slinging any weekend stuff, and what are your thoughts on what we're seeing?
I've still been doing the UVIX thing just to because when I have something like that, I like to match it up my executions to the model.
So now you're just going naked UVIX over the weekends?
I'm just naked UVIX over the weekends and some China puts, and that's all I got.
China puts, just naked UVIX to go along with your naked weekend parties out there, sir. I've heard the rumors out there. Yeah. Anything else catching your eye in SVIX or UVIX, sir?
No, but the password for the swinger party in Clarendon Hills is kudzu.
Kudzu, or is it Buc-ee's? Because you have that. You have to bring that giant flagon.
They're probably going to change the password now.
Now they probably are. I'm out now on all the naked weekend suburban parties. Instead, I'll just keep rolling out here to UVXY 39.40. They had this reverse split and coming back to earth a little bit, down about 3 points. Rumor has it we will be joined by Mr. UVXY trader on the show maybe next week. So we'll see. He'll probably have some thoughts on trading it in this post reverse split environment, which I know a lot of you are intrigued by. When it gets any of these products, these rapidly eroding products get up to like a 40, 50 handle, they certainly make a lot of people stand up and pay attention. 25,000 contracts on the tape right now. That ADV is 43,000. That's down another 20,000. This is the flip side of the reverse split, listeners. All the weird vestigial prints and tickers, it tends to gum up the works, and as a result, volume usually takes a hit. So interesting stuff out here. Maybe we'll be talking more about UVXY. For all you UVXY Defense Force folks, maybe giving you a little bit of a shot in the arm at the end of the year. And then VXX could use a shot in the arm, unless you're fading it. Someone wrote in, I remember it was probably summertime, saying they had puts in VXX. They needed a 20 handle, somewhere in that range. So I don't know if 28.15 is enough for you, whoever mystery person who wrote out to go see. But that's down about 1 1/3 points from this time last week. I have a feeling the answer is probably no. And also, you've been long them for a while, so you probably paid a fair amount for those. So I'm guessing the answer is no. You might need an actual 20 handle, which would be wild, by D's expiration. But we shall see out there. 31,000 contracts on the tape today against an ADV of 41,000, down about 2,000 from this time last week. Mr. Rhoads, anything catching your eye in the realms of UVXY or your beloved VXX?
Nah, nothing exciting. Plus, we're coming up on it. I can talk to fill time, but
yeah, you and I, look at this. You and I just chatting. An hour flies by when we're having fun, but we're getting to that moment, sir, the portion of the show that we all love and or dread. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, everybody, welcome to the crystal ball, the portion of the show where we attempt to wrestle with the vol gods, tell you what they have on the docket for the coming week. And you know what, listeners, coming into the end of the show, we're hanging out not that far away from where we were at the start of the show. The major indices, the S&P up nearly a full percent now, about 0.95%. Dow up about 2/3%. And our old pal VIX Cash hanging out right around a 1530. It's like it's a 1529 to be precise, which looks really good for me, listeners, because I was at a 1520.25. So that gives me probably the final bullseye of the year. I need a little drop here, a little air horn for a celebratory thing for the crystal ball. I don't like speaking some of these crazy levels into existence, but I didn't mind. I got a little bit of downside in my back pocket. And also, it just seemed like maybe seasonally post everything going on this week that maybe we might see a little bit of downside. And that was indeed the case. The meatball was at a 1441. And Mr. Rhoads, a.k.a. Gretchen, was feeling the upside, at least compared to me, at a 15 70. So you know what, Mr. Rhoads? Never let it be said that I am not a magnanimous victor out here. So I shall be charitable. I will allow you to choose whether you want to go first or last, sir.
It's not me. It's Gretch.
That's true. It's Gretch.
It's Gretch. So I can, regardless of what you say, I'm going to say what Gretch says. And Gretch says 1555.
Gretchen says 15. We need to have like a category. It's like now we have two players in your seat. We have you and we have Gretchen. So I'm playing against multiple additional players out there. 1555 for Miss Gretchen. Let's see. Yeah, we are vacillating around a little bit. And it's going to be obviously a truncated trading week next week. I don't really hate the level that you are camping out at for next week, or I should say Gretchen is camping out at. So you know what? I'm going to say pretty close to where we are right now. I'm going to say a little bit lower than where I am this week. I'm going to say 1515. So there's your market for next week, listeners. Nice and tight, 1515 to the downside and 1555 to the upside. All right, Mr. Rhoads, that music means you and I have survived our penultimate journey through the tumultuous Vol Views waters of 2025. Did you have fun, sir?
Oh, I always have fun. I've reached a point where if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. So if I didn't enjoy being with you on Fridays, you'd have to find a new doctor.
You've reached the bitter old man phase, sir.
I have.
Old man yells at cloud.
I kind of reached the point where I do what I want.
Well, if folks want to see what you want to do, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Just follow me on. If you follow me on Twitter, when I do stuff periodically, that's the spot that I put it out. We're picking things up into 2026. The person I'm partnered up with on consulting is ready to start hitting the ground running finally after we've been going back and forth about corporate structure and stuff. So there will be a lot more out of me next year. I promise.
A lot more out of you. That's true, because you need to fill up that Buc-ee's cup. I saw it, so you need a lot more out of you. Check them out. 2 S's, 2 L's, RHOADS. If you get to the, shall we say, Tampa weather guy who likes a beverage or two, you've gone too far. Dial it one back, and you will find Mr. Rhoads. Also look for him on the Substack and everywhere else. And, of course, while you're checking things out online, check out our friends over there in Tasty Trade, tastytrade.com/podcasts. All of our friends love all of our listeners on the network, but, of course, everybody loves the Vol Views audience, especially the brokers. So see what they have to offer you. They want to lure you to the dark side. Check them out. tastytrade.com/podcast is the place to go. We have to get on out of here. If you're hanging out in the pro, hang out. We'll come back because I do have to head out of the studio a little bit later today. We're going to do an early kind of midday session for the hot options report. So stay tuned for that. If you're on the pro, you already got your after party. We already got options oddities already hit you out there. So an early dose of that. Back again on Monday that will be, I believe, our penultimate trivia battle. Who will win that? And then, of course, back again next Friday for a little bit of vol fun on Volatility Views. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.